When we moved here, we were appalled at what it cost to live here. It was so much more expensive than it was in Columbus. So in '54, we bought a house that was not nearly as adequate as the one we had in Columbus and cost exactly twice as much. The house we bought in Columbus was $9,500, and the one we found here was $18,000. And it wasn't exactly what we wanted, but it was all right.
So you came to the high-rent district.
Yes, we did.
Champaign-Urbana, the high-rent
and Mama
district.
had to go back to work.
And Mama had to go back to work. Well, now, you know, to see you and hear this story, Mary, we would never guess that you're a rabid Democrat and active in politics and civic service and all those things. Tell me about that. In those years, when you were raising a family and contributing to the support of a family while your husband was away in the Army and then while he was a graduate student, were you already doing things outside of the family and outside of your job?
Well, in Yellow Springs, I was active in what was called the Committee for Racial Equality. It was a Quaker community, and there were a lot of people in the college community there who were active in racial equality because during the Civil War, Yellow Springs was an underground railroad. And there were a lot of black people there who were very respected and well known by everybody. It was really a great community to live in and to raise children in. It was small enough that you knew almost everyone. And I worked in that with some Quakers, and one of the men was the chaplain at the college. I've forgotten his name. This is a long time ago. And I did that while I lived in Yellow Springs.
What were your goals? What were the issues that were facing the community then?
Oh, I must tell you about the little theater in Yellow Springs, Ohio. We were trying to desegregate the little theater. And they had a very strange custom there. When you went to a movie, they had a section of the theater roped off for blacks only. And that was clear at the back of the theater. And one day, Antioch College decided that they were going to do them in. They lined up with white students and they put the lightest blacks toward the front. And they spaced them so that the blackest black was at the back. And as they went in with their tickets and gave their ticket to Mr. Little, they went down and sat where they wanted to, and pretty soon the black kids got a little darker. And he got disgusted. He said, "To hell with it." And he took that rope and he went out on Xenia Avenue and threw that rope in the street, and the theater
And that was the end of it.
That was the end of it. The theater was desegregated.
I love it. I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely marvelous.
Yeah.
And this was in what year?
That was in about 48. About
Very good.
1948. We left. I left Yellow Springs in 1949 and moved to Columbus. And Lynn left in 48.
You beat me, of course, to this town by more than a decade. I came in 1965, but I hadn't been here long before people told me that our theaters had been segregated as recently as the early 50s. And there's something about a swimming pool here that was segregated right up until the 50s. I think this community must not have been too different then from what you saw in Yellow Springs.
Probably not.
So, you know, we're not that far away from it. I know that we have a lot of people born a long time since then, but that means within my lifetime. I'm born in 1943, so I was a war baby. But within my lifetime, there has been a tremendous change. My own home community in Pennsylvania had very few black people, almost none. And the people who were there were well known by everyone, and I never saw any sign of discrimination, but I was aware of it through the newspapers. I knew things went on elsewhere. But it's eye-opening and maybe ear-opening for the younger members of our audience to hear that these were still issues not all that long ago, even after the Second World War. In fact, it's worth mentioning here that in the Second World War, troops were segregated.
Yes, they
were. It was after the war that Truman
Yes, I was going to just say that. President Truman did something about that during the war, didn't he?
I think it was
right
after the war, right after the war.
Yes, I remember that.
47 or 48.
Yeah.
So you lived through that particular era, and you found yourself in Champaign, and suddenly, as you say, Mama had to go back to work. So what did you do for work?
Well, I was asked by a local school teacher if I would have any objections to teaching in an all-black school, and I said, well, certainly not. I had had children of all colors and shapes and sizes and nationalities in Canton, Ohio. My parents were immigrants, and I said I had no objections at all. So I went to Washington School in Champaign, which was an all-black school. And Willard School was an all-black school, and another one that I can't think of its name right now. There were 3 all-black schools in the North End. So I went to Washington School half-time. The building wasn't big enough for the principal to be a full-time principal. I don't understand that. I don't think that would happen today. Anyhow, Odelia Wesley was the principal. She taught the first grade in the morning. I taught it in the afternoon.
You told me at lunch the other day that you reverse integrated the school.
That's right, in reverse. I was the first white teacher there.
So all the, not
all-black
only
staff and all black
That's it. Not only were the students all black, but so was the staff.
Yes.
Now, you know, that also will be interesting to some of the people watching us tonight, because in recent times we've been looking for black teachers to go into black schools, but apparently there were black teachers in, at that time.
Well, you see, the black teachers that were at Washington when I was there had been there a long time, and they were a good lot of teachers. Oh, they were just excellent. And Odelia Wesley is a wonderful person. She's retired now, and she teaches handiwork. She teaches knitting especially to the senior citizens at the Senior Citizen Center in downtown Champaign every Thursday morning.
How old is she now?
Well,
I mean, we won't give anything away here, but you have to estimate.
Oh, I don't think so. I would say that she must be close to 75.
Marvelous. Marvelous. So there you were, half of a first grade teacher.
And then while I was teaching in the afternoon, I was going to school in the morning here, working toward a bachelor's. And I got my bachelor's degree the same spring that my daughter graduated from Urbana High School.
And that was how many years after you got your teaching certificate?
Yeah, this was in '59, 22 years after. I got my teaching certificate in Ohio in '37.
Marvelous. When are you going to do your PhD, Mary?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
We have one in the family. If I did that, then Lynn would have to work so Mama could go back, you see.
How did you find teaching in that school?
Very interesting. It was lovely. I had children. A lot of the children I had never been read to. And I made a point of reading them a story every day. And the first day I read the children a story, one little child said to me, "Do it again."
These are first graders?
First graders.
Do it again.
Do it again. They didn't know the word read. And that was so touching. I read it again. And I read a story every day, and they loved the story circle more than anything, I think. I read them a story every day, and my first graders had read to them Stuart Little, Charlotte's Web, the Lassie stories, stories that had some length and some meaning and that were classics, and they just loved it. And I also taught the children who had never been in a library how to go to the library. I sent notes home to their parents. Please take your child to the library on Saturday morning. The books are free. You can borrow them, and a lot of parents did that.
Now, that was an important thing to emphasize.